We enter into the following financial agreement with former Borough Manager Nancy Freenock. First, Mrs. Freenock is to receive $6,500. This represents the contributions that she made to the pension plan. Additionally, she is to receive $12,500. That totals $19,000. Also, as part of this motion, because the judge has issued a gag order, there will be no further discussion nor any questions answered.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion by council on that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Give us a little protection on that street. There's still some normal people that live on that street, and we've had just various things. Last year, 2 flags, they came up on my porch and stole things. My neighbor had a lamp post completely busted off. It's not a decorative thing. I'm talking about a big lamp post. My other neighbor had someone come in last year, drunk, come in his house and come up his stairs. Now that's a good way to get shot. Then we had a fight out there, a brawl out there last week, and if you do anything, you sort of get retaliation because they went out and yelled and swore at them, and then the next night someone broke off my sewer drain. That's not a little thing. They broke my sewer drain off clear into the ground, and who knows what went down and went over into the other pipes. And so this is the 3rd time I've had it broke off, not up by the college kids all the time, but this is getting old. And we had them in our yards last year, in our backyards, carrying on and screaming and yelling and drunk. They're getting pretty brave. The house beside me they came up on their porch last winter and threw their end table off into the yard. A couple days ago, another person, all the garbage cans were tipped over. And the cops used to sit across from my house. They did a really good job there a few years ago. They were across from my house at that garage quite a bit. And I'm not sure, I understand there's a couple cops and a lot of college kids, but Greenville Avenue is a hot spot, and Reinhardt has made our lives hell, really, since they put that in. That's when the trouble started. I don't know if these are viable solutions, but all I could think of is, can we get that sidewalk and that walkway done by, on PennDOT about that? If we could keep them on the other side, might help a little. Can we get a little more police protection down there? And I understand they're busy, but the majority of the problem seems to be on Friday, Saturday night between 1 and 3. So that's the hot hours there on the weekends. And I think a curfew would be a good idea. I'm pretty sure that won't fly, but I don't see any reason for college kids to be out there at 3 o'clock on that street, all over that street, yelling, screaming. I hear my dogs bark. I hear the neighbors' dogs bark. We have 3 women that are in their 80s that can hardly get around there. So till anything happened, till they could even get out there, We've got single women. We don't really have a lot of manpower on that street, anything. And I'm thinking, why can't we have a curfew? Do we need these college kids out there at 3 in the morning all the time? Is this even feasible? If you could maybe discuss this and see if you could come up with something that could give us a little protection. 1 year 3 years ago, my flower pots were smashed. The police the other night said maybe you could put your drain a decorative thing over it. Well, they got the decorative rock long ago. And the flags, and that's all I can think of for me, other than listening to them out there swearing and screaming in the middle of the night. And it's getting bad. Times are bad, people are getting bad. They're getting worse every year. And I'm wondering if we couldn't come up with something to maybe help us out a little to keep...
Can I ask you, are you saying that most of the vandalism is coming from people walking to Reinhardt? Or
Yes.
Is there a rental unit around?
There are rental units there, but I'm going to guess that most of it, there have been rental houses there since I've been there a long time. There have always been some rental houses. The problems have started since Reinard went in.
But you can't identify that these people live in, because
I
we
cannot
have
say
a
it-
rental unit ordinance where Mr. Reagan can contact the owners of those properties.
I can't say that exactly. I'm saying that the trouble started when Reinard went in. And, when they're coming up on your porch in your house, this is, and I talked to a man, I was telling a man what happened to me last week in Sheets, and he said, well, they stole a half a tank of gas off of me. And I said, how do you know that was college kids? And he said, I live right in the middle of the college. He said, and if it happened, I said, did you make a police report? And he said, no, if it happens again, I'm going to shoot. Now, you're going to get some nut with a gun, and someone's going to get hurt, because this is the kind of people that's out there nowadays. And, I'm concerned for everyone involved. So,
We definitely will beef up the police protection in that area. But I have noticed since school has started, the students come in cycles. For the last couple of years, the students seem much better behaved.
they were better.
This year seems like, for whatever reason, everything goes in cycles. There seems to be more activities so far. So,
I think if you look at people in general, people are getting more thoughtless, more careless, more unconcerned with anyone else, so I don't expect it to get better. But
contract that seemed to have caused some upheaval within the community. I'm just kind of curious because I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Chuck, why don't you give them the numbers that you went to Carol negotiated with, and that will help solve a lot of issues with the community.
All right, the contract we got with Florida Police for year 2013 through 2017 is a 5-year contract. Basically, the 13th, 14th, 15th years, 4.5% increase. 16 and 17 is a 5% increase. So it basically is going to cost the board taxpayers $80,000 $80,007.20 over the 5 years. What we did was we figured whenever we got the part-timers was what saved us or allowed us to do why we gave them such an increase, or filled we could. Using the part-timers just on vacation days only, what they're scheduled to have for a police officer's schedule, it'll be a savings of $19,390.80 per year. Take that over 5 years, that's $96,954. Length of the contract. So we're going to save more than what we've actually paid out, just in using the part-timers. No arbitration fees if we go with this. I didn't figure that money in, just a note. And that's pretty much the numbers we come up with. I mean, there's other factors, there's other things down through the line, but that's the main gist of it.
I would say I don't think that's exactly accurate.
Okay?
That doesn't include, that's the salary increase
Right.
that we're talking. That does not count the increase in pay for sick days. That doesn't account the longevity increases. That doesn't account for any other portion of this contract. What you just talked about is the salary
The
portion of the
salary
contract.
portion of the contract.
But
the
that's not the
numbers.
total cost of it. That's not all the numbers. That's not the total cost of the contract to the borough. That's what I think she was asking. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No. Well, and I mean, does the part-time officers eliminate the overtime that the full-time officers have been getting?
Yes.
It eliminates it.
Not
I would not say it
totally.
eliminates it.
No,
No.
wait, not totally, but
I'm trying
Sure.
to learn because
But
I don't know.
Sure, can I tell you something? I was involved 2 contracts ago.
Let's talk about what was happening now.
That's
not
exactly
happened
what I'm
before.
talking about, Brenda.
Okay.
2 contracts ago, they were told if they would settle for a small amount of money, they would be taken care of in the next contract. The next contract came, nobody wanted to talk to them, it went to arbitration.
That's not true.
That's not true.
And because these
We need order, we
people-
need order here. Let's have order.
And one thing you don't know, that after their contract was settled, they went certain people went to the actuary and said, we're gonna make you, because you were bad boys, contribute 5% to your pension. So you know what the bottom line was? These guys took home less money after their contract.
Wait a minute. There was no penalty to the police for a 5% thing. I was here on council, that was not what we had discussed.
That
in
is
any
what
way.
they did, and the fund
Wait a minute,
was.
how do you say that's what they did? That was what we
Here, let's go to order.
If I may, my understanding from your policy, the open meeting policy, is this is the time for public comment, and it's my understanding that each of council members are required to request acknowledgement from the president to speak, and that council members are to address it through the president. In addition, there's to be no public comment from the chairs or questions asked without being recognized by the president.
Mr. President, can I just explain the 5%? They were required to have a 5% deduction out of their pay to go to the pension fund, and the pension fund was fully funded. Now, I don't know whether you knew that or not. You can ask every one of them that are here tonight. That's what happened, Jason.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Yes, you.
That was, what you said was, the reason they had to pay that 5% was a penalty because they were bad boys, and that's a mischaracterization. That was not what we did that for. It was because our understanding was the pension was not funded correctly. That's why we voted for that. Don't say we voted it as a penalty because the police did something that we didn't like. I sat here, we voted on that because the understanding I had was the pension was not fully funded, and that amount was required to make sure that we were funded correctly. So those are two entirely different things.
Mr. President, at that time, their pension was funded 111%. It's still over 100% funded. You were given the wrong information. And I have it from Colleen Deere, because I wanted to find out why.
She's the one that came and talked to us about this, and told us this was what we needed to do, so.
Okay, let's go further on to, Jennifer, you've already spoken. Janice, go ahead.
Janice Horn, 32 Barber Street. I do have some questions about the police contract, mainly the length. In my experience with labor contracts and reading I've done about it, 5-year contract is quite unusual. A 3-year contract is more normal. And I think it's dicey for both sides to sign a contract for 5 years. You don't know, you're much less likely to know what's going to happen in 5 years than you are in 3. And I was wondering if you'd compared this contract with what other boroughs similar to Clarion might have, and how that,
Can I answer, Chuck?
yeah, okay.
We actually did. Chuck took a lot of time and went to every state host community. And our officers are being...
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yes,
Thank
our
you.
officers are next to the lowest amount paid,
Okay.
and the majority of them have 20-some, our officers have about 20-some years.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Because I noticed on these, and I'm wondering, are we really comparing the things correctly? We're talking about the base rates in here, and you're right, in that comparison, the borough police pay doesn't look very good. But does that count sick time, vacation time, personal time, type and healthcare amounts, what they're contributing? When did they negotiate this contract last? Are we really comparing apples to apples, or are we not comparing comparable things? And I don't know the answer to that.
Just on base pay.
But you can't compare just base pay, because there's two different things there sometimes. Your base pay may look higher than my base pay does, but my benefits may be different than yours, where it evens it out, and the numbers aren't the same, but the pay is. What do they get in a longevity bonus, for example? We're talking about a $2,500 longevity bonus for our officers. What are these other municipalities doing? Are we really comparing the same things? I don't think that we are. I appreciate this information, I said that. I don't know if it compares what we really want it to compare to.
Okay, yes, Mrs. Horn, continue.
It's mine.
Just Councilwoman.
I'll let Janice finish.
It's my understanding that the compensation for the other borough employees is tied to the contract for the police. Is that correct?
No, that is not
It
correct.
is not correct.
Have they always followed in step?
Not always, sometimes,
Have they generally followed in step?
no.
Has that been the tradition? If it's not a law, has that been the
Well,
tradition?
I have to go back to what you just gave one Public Works employee a $3 pay raise, $3 an hour pay raise. Now, that was against everything.
I don't think that was the question. My question was, have we done this
Well, I'm
traditionally
just
in the
saying,
past?
you went
You're taking
against
the
that.
question, you're changing it. Have we done that traditionally in the past where they've followed each other?
Not necessarily, no. Sometimes, probably, yes, depending upon who was on council.
Did they do it last time?
I don't know, I wasn't here.
Linda? Do you know if they?
I don't know if they did or not. I didn't
Okay.
handle that part of the negotiation. I know that
I'm
the
sorry?
sick time.
Okay,
She was very close, yeah.
continue.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Can't do that, we've done that in the past, we've been.
Okay, somebody can move to withdraw their own motion.
Yes.
And then
I
a new one
will-
can be made.
Withdraw my motion, yeah, my motion.
Okay, Mr. Bartley.
All we want to do is her motion, just add it on that it goes, it's pending review of our solicitor, that he has to review it. It comes back to council, it'll get reviewed again, and has to pass the final vote there. Can't
No.
approve. Because how am I gonna have my number set for everybody to approve?
You're not
Where I'm
gonna,
at.
you're not gonna convince everybody. You're not gonna convince everybody. I mean, we've been down this road how many
John,
times?
how would you put that?
My understanding is that, the way I understand Mr. Bartley's motion is that there's been a red line version presented tonight
To some.
of the agreement with the major terms incorporated therein and certain deletions. It's my understanding that he's recommending that those terms be approved, subject to a final written contract being adopted, without changing the terms in here, except for the one that was made this afternoon, is my understanding, which was the $75. And then the gist of the motion would be then that the terms will not change, subject to the solicitor's review and recommendations, and it would be a wording matter more than anything.
For the master's checking board.
Okay, do I have a
So
second on
I-
that?
Doesn't this need to come to a vote again then? Once it's in its
Once
final
it's in
form?
its final form, yes.
So it's not approving the contract tonight?
It's approving the terms of the contract, subject only to solicitor's review and a final review, that the terms of the contract will not be altered.
Yeah, make no mistake, what we're doing basically is voting on this contract now, and we're looking at language to make sure we dotted the i's and crossed the t's. Let's be clear what we're doing.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, without even a contract in front of me. Okay.
May I ask you?
Would it be, Mr. President, would it be possible, John, maybe you could help us out with this, and I don't even know if it'd make a difference, but to go through the 3 or 4 major terms that we're talking about, wages, length, sick days, or sick pay, and the longevity.
My
Those are
understanding
the
is
4.
those were spelled out in the red line document I have. I don't
Okay.
know who got it, who didn't, whatever.
But we can't vote on those individually, the terms individually, those 4 major terms,
No, in other words, you can't piecemeal the contracts.
right?
You either approve it or disapprove it.
Prove it as it's presented,
Subject to that one modification.
I got you.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. Discussion?
Wait, who's second?
Carol.
Carol seconded Chuck's motion. She withdrew hers, he made a new motion,
Could you
and
read
she
the motion
seconded.
back to me, please?
I don't know what it is at this point. I'm
That's what I
sorry.
thought.
John?
My understanding of the motion is that the contract that I'm holding in my hand, this red line version, contains the major terms that everybody is voting on. And you're voting on the major term. The only modification to that agreement was what Mr. Bartley said about something being reduced from 150 to 75.
Some.
What was that?
Some.
Unused sick day pay.
Sick day pay.
Okay, so the motion is clear, that's the only modification to this red line version. And it's my understanding that it's only subject to solicitor's review and changes of language. That's my understanding of the motion as it's presented.
Okay, and we've seconded it, we've moved and we've seconded it. So what we're saying is we're gonna vote on a contract. How many council members
voting
here
on
have
terms.
seen this, have
We're
seen this
voting on the
contract?
terms.
We're voting on the terms of what I
I have a
got.
red line copy, so I can't vote.
You have a red line copy?
No, I do not.
Okay, I don't have a red line, okay.
Who has a red line copy? Who has a red line copy of this contract this evening, other than the one that John is using, which I assume is Carol's?
Yes.
Earl, do you have a red line copy? Have you seen the red line copy? Jamie, have you seen the red line copy?
Tonight.
Chuck, you've seen the red line copy. You have a copy of it now?
No, I don't.
Well, all I know is if this contract does come to fruition, that the conduct of this council will change after this. It absolutely has to change. This is ridiculous. We look like a joke to these people. Absolutely. And it's a disgrace. A total disgrace.
Let's vote, we all know what the answer is gonna be, so.
Well, I'd just like to comment, my only objection to what's been presented as far as the terms is the amount on the buyback on the sick pay. That's my only objection.
Okay, Leonard, roll call.
Mr. Zerflos,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
No.
Dr. Sanders Davis.
No.
Ms. Lippinto,
Yes.
Mr. Noto,
No.
Mr. Bartley,
Yes.
President Walters.
Yes. Okay.